Between August 2018 and August 2019, the world price of sweet potatoes increased from $12 to 22.50 per box. This was caused by hurricane Florence and heavy rains in the US, the world's largest supplier. Explain the likely impact of this change in price of consumer surplus in the market of sweet potatoes. Illustrate your answer with the diagram. So, here, when we look at this statement, something is wrong already with this economy. There's poor weather condition, and we could even say there is a natural disaster because of Hurricane Florence. So, what is the impact of natural disaster to supply of goods? But before we go into that, the first thing we have, because they said we should explain based on price of consumer surplus. So the first thing you have to do is to explain what consumer surplus is. So what is consumer surplus? Consumer surplus is the difference between the price which we as consumers are willing to pay and the market price. The price consumers are willing to pay, the difference between the price consumers are willing to pay and the market price. That is consumer surplus. Market price is the agreed price, the equilibrium price. So that's about equilibrium price. Then what is the impact here? So there's going to be a graph for this. So we're going to have, just I'm trying to draw what I can draw. Anyway, so let's see if I can do better than this. Let's see again. I'm sorry. Well, we're just going to manage the graph. So we're going to have there's going to be an equilibrium here. So we have our equilibrium here. We have our PE here, PE at this point. That's PE. Then we're going to have QE at this point. Then we have our demand and supply curve at this equilibrium. At this equilibrium. So we have our supply curve here, and we have the demand curve here. Now, there's a fall based on the statement. There's natural disaster. Natural disaster will shift the supply curve leftward from S to S1. So we're going to have a leftward shift in the supply curve. We have it here. So there's going to be a leftward shift in the supply curve here. So we have our S1. S1. Oops. Okay, this is our S1. Then there's going to be a new price, an increase in price. At P1. I believe you should draw better than this anyway, because you're going to use your pen. So we're going to have at P1. That's a new price. Then we're going to have the new quantity at this point. We call it Q1. We call it Q1 at this point. Q1. So this is a typical graph stating that supply has fallen from supply has fallen as a result of natural disaster leftward from S to S1. As a result, the quantity supplied in the market will fall, will contrast from QE to Q1, and the price will increase from PE to P1. So based on this, we could have our W here. We could have our W here. We have our X at this point. Then we could have, oh, we don't even need that. We'll just explain that anyway. So based on this graph, we're going to have our consumer surplus, and we are going to have our consumer surplus at PE, S, and QE. I'm going to have, that's the original consumer surplus at PE, QE, S. Then our consumer surplus, the original consumer surplus will be at P1, S1, and Q1. So that's about that. I think it's clear. Then you, at the end of it, you have a question? Yes, please. Okay, I'm going to explain again. There's hurricane, right? And we said the first thing you have to do for this question is to define what consumer surplus is. Consumer surplus is the difference between the amount consumer paid and the amount, the market price. That means the equilibrium price. The difference between the equilibrium price and the price consumers actually pay. That is the equilibrium price. That is the first thing. Then the second point was about hurricane and heavy rain, which is bad weather condition and natural disaster. So bad weather condition and natural disaster will shift the supply curve leftward, because it means supply in the economy would fall. So if supply falls in the economy as a result of natural disaster, then the supply curve will shift leftward from S to S1. So the first thing we have to do is to reach equilibrium, which is at PE, QE, S, and D, which is the first thing. Then what the consequence of what has happened, natural disaster, will shift the supply curve, because we're talking about supply. So the supply curve will shift leftward from S to S1. So we're going to have a new graph. So at the point where the graph is going to meet will be our P1, which is the new price. A short in supply of goods and services will increase the price of a commodity. So the price will increase from PE to P1. Supply will fall from S to S1. The quantity supplied in the market will contract from QE to Q1. Is it clear now? Great. So that's about that. Sure. Going back.
Okay, so there's a nation is spending on what? What's this word?
Spending on what?
I'm talking about the board here.
I'm not about the board. I'm about the past paper.
Your handwriting is not clear.
What do I do about that? We'll continue with this, please. Yes, please. P1. Above PE. You know, there's going to be a new price from PE to P1. Is it clear now? Is it clear, please?
Yes.
Okay, good. So we'll move on. Do you have any question or I go further? Do you have any question or I go further? Okay, we'll move on. So we have an extract here for question 12. So we need to read the extract. I think the extract should be 30. Let's see. Okay, yeah, we have an extract. Extract A, global production of sugar. Between August 2017 and August 2018, the world price of sugar fell as a result of a favorable weather leading to good harvest. In 2018, India, the world's second largest sugar producer, and Thailand, the world's fourth largest sugar producer, at record levels of production. In 2018, global production was 11% higher than in 2017. That was 11%. Wow. In 2018, world production was so high that there was a surplus of 17 million tons. This led to a large quantity of sugar being held in storage. In recent years, consumption of sugar has fallen because of increasing health concerns. That's information. There's also competition from substitutes such as artificial sweeteners. In the US, Europe, China, and Australia, sugar consumption has fallen or remained unchanged. Sugar is grown in 119 countries. It takes sugar cane 1 year to mature in countries with warm temperatures and 2 years in cooler countries. So that's the first extract. Then we have to go back to the question. Yeah, the first question says, divide the term substitute, extract A, line 9. So based on what we read, what is a substitute good? A substitute good is a good that had two goods that have the same usage is a substitute good. A good that can be used in replacing another good is a substitute. Do you understand what a substitute good is here? So I wrote here, these are goods that serve the same purpose. They are called substitute goods. So based on that extract, example of substitute goods here are sugar and sweetener. Sugar and sweetener. Sugar is a good, and sweetener is a substitute. I think that is clear. So go to question B. With reference to extract A, explain one factor that is likely to influence the price of elasticity of sugar for supply. So the first thing you have to do here is you define what price elasticity of supply is. What is price elasticity of supply? It is the degree of responsiveness between the quantity supply of a product as a result of a change in price. The degree of responsiveness between the quantity supplied of a product as a result of a change in price. That is price elasticity of demand or supply. So you could also say it is percentage change in the quantity supplied over percentage change in price. That's about the definition. Then, what are the factors that could bring about, that could affect price elasticity of supply? One, storage capacity. When we talk about storage capacity, for storage capacity, we might not be able to supply more sugar if there's no place to store them. Because sugar will be considered as maybe non-perishable. If it is non-perishable, we have places to store them, then we can store them. Then the supply will increase. But if we don't have spaces to store them, whatever the price might be in the market, we will not be able to supply it. Because when we talk about price elasticity of supply, you better stop writing and listen. When we talk about price elasticity of supply, it means what happens when prices change. Suppliers, they change, they want to produce more when prices change. But what are the conditions that will allow them to supply more if prices increases? One of the conditions is spare capacity or storage capacity. So if they don't have a storage capacity, no matter what the price might be, they won't still be able to produce more because there's no place to store them. Do you get the point here? There's price elasticity of supply, the degree of responsiveness between the quantity supplied of a product as a result of a change in price. So if price changes, it is expected of suppliers to increase the price. So they will be able to, it's expected of them to supply more into the market. But how do they supply more if they don't have a storage capacity? So they need the storage capacity to supply. So if there's no storage capacity, no matter what the price is, they won't still be able to supply. So the law of supply will not be able to work. It will only work if they have storage capacity. That's number one. Two, I wrote time taking for sugar to reach maturity. They said in cooler area, based on what we read, it takes 2 years. In cooler area, it takes 1 year to mature. In warm areas, it takes 2 years to mature. So if the price of sugarcane increases this year, but it is in warmer areas, there's nothing they could still do. It has to take 2 years before they can supply. Do we get it? So the time at which you are able to produce that product can also affect the elasticity of supply. The third point I made here is about the ease of switching production. Note this: when the price of a product increases, firms will start thinking about producing that product. Yes or no? Why do they want to produce such product? They want to produce such product because they will make more revenue. But if they are unable to have equipment, resources that would enable them to switch from what they used to produce other things, then they won't be able to do that. So what I'm saying in essence is this. This is a bottled water. If the price of bottled water increases in this economy, a lot of businesses will start producing bottled water. Companies that produces markers might start producing bottled water, but they can only do this if they have equipment, machinery that would enable them to quickly switch to start producing bottled water. If not, they won't be able to produce it. And the last point I made here is about number of producing countries. The supply of sugar would increase if the numbers of countries that are producing sugar increases. If it is less, no matter what the price of sugar is, they will still not be able to produce them. I think that is clear. So we have question C. That's question. Okay, going to question C. They said, with reference to figure 1, extract A, 2 reasons why the world price of sugar fell between August 2017 and August 2018. Based on the extract I read for you, if you can recollect, there are reasons why they said there was a fall in the price of sugar between 2017 and 2018. What are the reasons why the demand of so when we talk about this, basically we're talking about two factors that would have caused the price of sugar to fall. They are demand factors and supply factors. Demand factors come from weak consumer, supply factors come from those that are producing. I think that is clear. So let's talk about the demand factors, the reasons why the price of sugarcane might fall. One, I wrote the consumption of sugar had fallen due to health concerns. Based on extra, they said sugar, overconsumption of sugar might lead to cancer, might lead to obesity. So these are reasons why now that there's health concern about sugar, we want to stop consuming sugar. So because we have knowledge about what sugar could cause, the harm sugar could cause, our consumption of sugar fell. As a result, the price would fall because the demand in the economy is falling. I think that is clear. The second one I wrote is competition from substitutes. We already said a substitute for sugar is what? Sweetener. Yes or no? So if sweetener is a substitute for sugar, then it might be that taking sweetener is more preferable than taking sugar. So as a result of that, the price of sugar might also fall. That is on the demand side. Then we go to the supply side. One, supply of sugar would have increased to make the price of sugar to fall. Listen, the supply of sugar would have increased to make the price of sugar to fall because it means there's excess supply in the market, there's surplus. And if there's surplus of the market, the price would fall. Firms will be wanting people to buy, so they have to reduce the price. So one of the reasons why we have an increase in supply of sugar is that there's favorable weather condition. The weather condition is favorable. That means we have a good weather condition, which allows sugarcane to be produced. And as a result, it's been processed to become sugar. That's the first point. The second point, they said, government of India have subsidized for sugar. If there's subsidy, what does subsidy do? Subsidy reduces the price of goods and services. So the government of India has subsidized for sugar, making the price of sugar to fall. That's the second reason why the supply of sugar, the price of sugar is falling on the supply side. And the last point I make here is increase in global production of sugar. It said USA and other countries, China, Australia, thank you, they increase their supply. As a result, that means the global supply of sugar has increased. If the global supply of sugar increases, the price of sugar would fall. I think that is clear. So that's about that. Then there's going to be a graph for that. The graph will be saying that there's a supply curve. We're going to have a demand and supply curve because these are the reasons for demand and supply. So a fall in the price of sugar would mean that the price of sugar has fallen from P to P1. As a result, the supply of sugar has increased from S to S1. Demand has fallen from D to D1, leftward. A rightward in supply curve for sugar, a leftward shift in the demand curve for sugar, and an increase and the fall in price for sugar. Supply of sugar will shift to the right. Demand for sugar will shift to the left. The price of sugar would fall. That is the situation there. So we stop here for that. Thank you.